Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Five Door Media Podcast. This is another episode in season 4 where we are diving into the future of the cleaning industry through the lens of technology, software, and AI. Today's guest is someone who's leading the charge in that transformation. Chris Maurer is the co founder and chief revenue officer at Model Rocket Technologies, a platform built to help home service businesses connect more intelligently with their customers using behavioral science and decision based AI. Chris is a seasoned sales leader with deep roots in the home service space and a career spent building high performance teams and solving complex problems with software. His passion lies at the intersection of technology, service, and systems that actually drive revenue. Backed by over a century of legacy in the home services sector, Model Rocket is not just another SaaS tool, it's a purpose built platform designed to automate and enhance how cleaning and service businesses present their products, communicate with their customers, and make smart data driven decisions. Today, we're going to be diving into how AI is reshaping sales and customer experience in our industry, why tech that understands your customer is the next frontier, and how operators can stay ahead of the curve. Chris, welcome to the show. We are fired up to have you on.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday. We're recording this.
Yep.
Love it. Very cool. Yeah, so happy to have you here. Happy to have this conversation. Let's set the scene, as I like to say on this. We're talking about the technology shift in cleaning in that home services industry. You have spent years in both software and that home service space. What shifts have you seen in how cleaning and home service businesses are approaching tech today, especially maybe compared to 3 to 5 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard not to selfishly talk about the things we're facilitating there, but mainly it's a better tracking of all aspects, both pre first conversation and and everything that happens from that moment you talk to a customer for the first time, all the way through the outcomes of that first appointment, first job, and then the indicators that you are trying to identify to know what is next in that customer journey with that individual. You know, the I came from enterprise SaaS where you've got these complex selling motions. And it's because, when you do early stage startup SaaS, your year could be dependent on a single deal. And if you don't know
Yeah.
everything about that deal, risk, everything that could go wrong, everything that could go right, you're going to get trapped and you could fall off a cliff or run into a not enough moving forward. And one of the things we used to say is, are we ready for this, right? Like, what if this
Mm.
works? What if we get this deal? Or do we have everything? Because it's great to go try to chase something that is going to
Yeah.
stretch the business. And we're we're kind of trying to bring that back or bring that into the everyday sale of home services, right? Because you, as a home services business, your calendar is kind of your lifeline, and how
Yeah.
you fill your calendar, it's not just about filling it, it's about filling it with the right customer for you at that right time. And we're helping balance that with the way that we've brought our behavioral science, decision science, and approach to AI.
I love that. Yeah. And I can't think of a conversation I've had with any business owner, and we get it a lot, obviously, in like the digital marketing space, because a lot of people, they confuse digital marketing companies. They, play with that line of IT and like technology as a whole, which we ourselves flirt with that line a lot too. But I can't have a conversation recently or think of a conversation where AI did not get brought up. And I think the biggest change I've seen in business owners, how they're talking about AI, is we've switched from AI, oh yeah, that would be nice to have, to it is a critical part of our business, or it's become a critical part of staying competitive. What do you think is driving that mindset shift? Because I've seen it in just the conversations that I'm having. I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah, and it's hard not to answer that without throwing buzzwords out there. I think fear of missing out is one of them. And what's so interesting about working in this space is we get to talk to customers who are multi-state, multi-brand portfolio companies,
Mm,
and we learn what they're able to do with, meaning, if they want to spin up a new product or spin up a new area, they can just stand up our AI, load the product catalog in, and kind of see who comes back before they have to invest in the infrastructure of the region. Because if it's close enough in proximity to a region they're already established, they can start to pull resources in as the region grows. And the
Mm,
reverse of that is you don't have time to miss a call as a small one man as an owner operator, right? And so the small owner operators, we always hear, well, our customers we want to talk to our customers. And I go, yeah, that's absolutely great. But what are you missing because you want to talk to your customers, right? You know, how many calls are you making? What is an acceptable amount of calls to miss as any
mm,
business, right? You spend money out the door to get them to call, and just simply,
yeah.
is it okay to miss one customer a month? It shouldn't be. And so the smaller businesses are able to present like they're bigger, and they need to add, you know, if you're a roofer, you need to add gutters, you need to add holiday lights.
Mm,
And that kind of like peripheral connected products, we can now help any business of any size start that selling that. And you don't need and you're talking about hiring, you don't need to hire an expert on your team to know how to sell gutters. You don't need to hire an expert to know how to sell power washing. You can now load an agent in that is ready to handle those questions and qualify those customers. And all of a sudden you turn around and you've got a new product line that's selling for you. And now you can plan your business that way. And it works the other way around, right? You've got a big business. Now you have the resources, but you don't have the leads. Now you can stand
mm.
up an agent to handle the leads, which you can afford to get the phone to ring. And now you're not sending the wrong crew out.
So true. And I mean, the whole "how many customers can you afford to lose" resonates deeply to the marketing guy, because that's a marketing frustration of all time. Like, we are doing all we can to send not just leads but the highest quality leads, to our clients. And
Yeah.
then there's been times, and I've talked about it before on the show, our 5 door method that we use. That fifth door they got to go through is sales. We'll jump in, we'll listen to calls, we'll look at email communications in their CRM, and they're just letting thousands of dollars like slip through their fingers on that sales side. And it kills us, because we're like, oh no, wait, we did it. We did our job, right? That lead is there. They're ready to spend money.
Yeah.
And whether it's no staff at all and like an unanswered call, or we're literally hearing CSRs just let that money slip through their fingers because they're not trained enough and well enough to get that close, kills us. And AI can obviously step in and help out with that.
Well, let's dig into what you said. You used a word like quality, right? So I don't know how many, but take 10 of your customers at random and ask them what quality lead means to each one of them, and you're going to get
Mm,
10 different answers. And that, like, that dynamic is why we founded Model Rocket, because you're not going to get a single AI agent to understand quality and the differences
mm,
10 times across 10 businesses, which on paper are just about the same. And that's the dynamic that we really wanted to build into our AI orchestration approach, is to sit down and actually understand, what is a quality lead to you? And the dynamic nature of quality and quality lead, it changes based on the on where the business is, even within their calendar scheduling for that week. You know, we talk about a lot, if you're in
mm,
plumbing or in anywhere where you go into the home to fix, is there a difference between a total installation or replacement and a diagnostic appointment? And there obviously is. So, do
mm,
you want a system that can identify, I only have a few spots left, I need to target high priority installation replacements? Or do you just want to flood your calendar with diagnostic appointments at the risk of losing a high profitability job like a total installation? And just starting there, people start to open up their eyes as to how just a LLM wrapper is not going to do the job, especially if you're trying to actually fill a profitable calendar.
100%. Like, the word there is, it is providing just a layer of intentionality that is not there without some sort of tool like this to help it, be as valuable as it can.
Well, the alternative is, you've got a really good salesperson answering the phone. And that's
Yeah.
expensive, and they're hard, and really
Hard
good
to find too.
salespeople, especially at that phase of their career, want what's next. They don't want to be in that
Yeah.
role, which is completely understandable. And so now you've got a high turnover role that is a high importance role, and there's a high error rate. Because and it's just, you can't do that. You can't do that over the course of trying to scale.
100%. So let's talk a little bit about just Model Rocket as a whole. I think you guys are building really smart technology for real operators. I think this is not something that's just built in general. I think you're building it for real people that have real problems. But Model Rocket, some could say, is a bold play, right? It's rooted in legacy, but built with like cutting edge technology that is still evolving on a daily basis, which I'm sure makes your job really fun. What was the spark or the idea that really led you and your team to build this platform? What platform or what problem in that home services space are you guys really trying to solve?
Yeah, so there's a couple layers to that, and use a hand signal when you want me to dig in or drive out because I this is
Sure.
again my passion point. So we started on a couple of different foundational pillars. One of them is we never want AI to make a decision for you, right? So selfishly, I don't want AI to ever make a decision for me. And the counter to that is you then need to be able to ask it, why did you draw that conclusion? Why did you make that
Mm,
suggestion? And so when you take that principle, you then have to go down the path of a conversation and really think about how many times do you want to know why, right? We want to know, why was that word choice selected? Why was that
mm,
tone picked? Why was that pause there? Right? And and then we want to know behind the scenes, why did the customer make that setting? Like why in the South do you want that pause, that inflection, that word choice versus the North? Um, and and from there, you then start to kind of really dig into how you need to be able to have insights into this thing that you're trusting to answer the phones, to answer your website, to fill your calendar. And the other one, the third kind of leg of that is AI is going to be out of reach for most home services businesses. And what I mean by that is, we've got a lot of lessons we can learn from the last 10, 15, 20 years of social media, right? If the product is free, then you're the product and they're using your data. So they're willing to give you something using their data. And so what I think is happening in home services is they're getting bombarded with all these really cheap LLM wrapped voice agents that are just basically another IVR or answering machine.
mhm.
And as a result, their use case and time with that vendor is teaching that vendor to get better, and they're not getting compensated. And I wanted to get ahead of that for my customers, meaning when you sign up with Model Rocket, it's your agent, it's your environment, your settings are set aside. And so if we work with large franchises, 200, 200 to 300 locations, right? And what we're
Mhm.
able to do is identify what is unique about high performing franchises with the settings of the agent they're using, right? What do they say after hours? What do they say between 8 and 10 in the morning? What do they say pre storm, post storm, right?
Mm.
And if you don't think about that now, just think about over the last 20 years what you wish you knew about what you were giving away when you signed up for Facebook, what you were giving away when you signed up for Instagram. And if you think it's any different than right now with your AI vendor, you're absolutely wrong. And just ask them,
Mm.
who owns my data? How do I get my data? And how do I and just go ask your vendor, pick a random date in time in the past and ask them to see your settings. Because if they can't tell you the last time it rained 6 inches and you're a roofing company and what your settings were and what your conversion rates were, then you're not getting better for the next time it rains 6 inches and you only have one job left and you need to identify the right job.
So good. And I think you're starting to answer this next question, but how would you, really say Model Rocket is different than maybe other tech platforms, AI platforms in this space when it comes to using that data and using it to help decision science and behavioral AI
Yeah. So
without giving away all your trade
no, no,
secrets at
yeah,
the same time?
of
Yeah.
course. Um,
Yeah.
we're AI agnostic. So we're LLM
Okay.
agnostic. We're voice agnostic. We're never going to sell you on we have the best voice in the industry. In fact, I know there's a group of people who are listening to this and saying all the voices are horrible. And you know what?
Mm,
The voices don't have a great track record over the last couple of years. They're spotty. They pause. They interrupt. It's not great.
yeah.
But what our voice does is it works, right? Like we transcribe every call, we break down every call, and we connect to all your systems. So we are connecting to your CRM, any of your major industry CRMs. We're putting all that data into your CRM for you, so your people aren't doing that. And we're
Mm,
tracking all the way through to the outcomes. Did they pay? Did they pay on time? Were you profitable? And what happens when you start with first words spoken, really when you start with the marketing dollars and understanding how that call happened, then you go
yeah.
track first words spoken, and you're tracking every single step all the way to payment and what's next, right? Is this a customer that's viable for an additional service down are they a subscription viability, right? You get that learning loop there. And what I would ask anybody in the home services space to start thinking about, if you're using AI, is this time next year, what am I learning? Right? Can I
Mm,
look, and do I have an influence in that learning loop? Because what's going to end up happening is the AI is going to get so precise with the first word spoken on every call, it's going to start to do a prediction based on how you answer the phone. And if you're
mm.
not ahead of that, then somebody else's prediction is going to be the one influencing that. And maybe you do, maybe you don't want control over that, but I certainly do.
For sure. And I think it's important, people listening, to this, for us not to go too high up, right? We probably have people on the spectrum of AI, people that are still scared of it, or people that don't, or they're nervous about it, they don't
Love it.
understand it.
Yeah.
People that are using it right now a little bit daily, kind of like, I don't know, probably what I explained to you, what I'm doing before we push record. But then we do have some like high end people, so I want to make sure we're helping all possible listeners that are inside of this conversation. How do where do people where do people start?
I got it. I love that
Let's
question, Drew.
say,
I
can
love
you
it.
share like maybe a story of basic stories of how AI has helped maybe a cleaning or home service business? Have they've used your platform maybe, or maybe they're just we're talking AI in general, how they've transformed how they sell or serve their customers using AI. Like, let's break down that wall a little
Yep.
bit for people who are, it's so overwhelming. Is it a robot? Whatever. What is it? What are some like stories you could tell of a business that just started introducing it and what changed that like
Yeah.
occurred because of it?
Yeah. Wonderful question. In fact, it's where every conversation starts, unless I'm
Yeah.
replacing something. And
Yeah.
and the way to think about the way I want to start that conversation is with some simple, obvious questions. What are you doing right now? Right? Again, how many calls is it acceptable for you to miss? When you're on a roof and you get a call, what are you doing? When it's 2 a.m. and you get a call, what are you doing? When it's 2 in the afternoon and all your folks are tied up on the lines and the call goes to a voicemail, what's your conversion rate of callbacks? Right? You I would suggest that you start with an understanding of your current performance metrics so that you know what to compare it to. And one and the nice part about starting there is we've actually, if you're new to AI, we have a preferred rollout, and we actually insist on starting with, let us answer the after hours calls, right? When does it
Mhm.
go over to an answering service? When does it go over to your voicemail? Let's just start there, because I know our conversion rates are better than your callback in the morning. And then once we've earned your trust of we can answer the phones after hours, then let's go start with the calls you're going to miss. So call overflow, the missed calls. And just by answering after hours, call overflow, and missed calls, we provide conversions and and booked appointments. And that's a really good way to earn our way into answering all the calls. And it always goes like that. It always goes
Mhm.
answer the phones after hours, prove you can do it,
Yeah.
low risk, right? You're not going to answer it anyways. And the benefit of signing up with Model Rocket is we actually encourage you to try other agents, right? Because what's
Mm.
happening, in my opinion, in the space right now is you get a lot of these predatory outbound emails. We do these amazing things, and these
Yeah.
businesses have no context to compare it to. So sign up for Model Rocket, use it for a couple of months, and get, or not even Model Rocket, sign up for any AI agent and get some statistics that and some metrics that you can then provide. So the next time someone says they do this thing, say, okay, well, I'm paying $500 a month and I'm getting a 25% conversion rate of all after hours calls. So now you've got a starting place to actually come to the
Yeah.
table and say, how are you better than that? What do you got to offer me other than where I am right now? And that's really no different than what everybody's done in the past. But AI is so new and fast that nobody has that kind of standard metrics to compare it to.
I think that's such a smart starting place because it's AI can be, especially when we're talking about like LLMs like the Chat GBTs or the Groks or Geminis or Claudes. It's very easy to start just typing in there, right? And I think what made me laugh, somebody's best tip on how to use those is like you should ask it, how do you use it? And it will give you instructions on like where to start. But when it comes to like more intentional strategies using AI and technology that we're talking about, it's such a good idea. If I think we'll have an idea whether it's voice, let's talk about voice, right? And you said like having a good benchmark for those after hours calls, which is so real in the cleaning industry, which there's demographic reasons because of that. People are slowed down on the weekends. They're finally slowed down after dinner. They're looking around at their dirty house and they're too tired from work day to actually clean it. So they're like, maybe I should look into a cleaning company. They call, they fill out a form or something like that. No one's there because it's after hours of the weekend. But having that benchmark, okay, what is your after hours conversion rate right now? Right. And a lot of people I think would jump in before having that metric. So they don't have something to compare it to. But even before you dive into Model Rocket or other AI voice, technologies, figure out where you're at now so you can have something measuring moving forward. Because it's going to be probably easier to measure with AI voice tools than it is without them. But having that starting place is a brilliant place, like to start.
Well, why?
Where are you currently? And so you can actually see what improves.
Well, Drew, why does AI get a pass? Right? You don't hire somebody without having metrics. You don't like. Why does AI, just because it's new and
Yeah.
fast, get a pass on the way you perform?
It's shiny. That's why,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. I mean, and it's shiny. It's new. I know in the home service space, especially in the cleaning space, it is such a tight knit industry. There are so many like Facebook groups full of people saying AI this, AI that. Oh, you're not using AI. If you're not growing, you're dying. It's the shiny new thing that you've got to have. So I think that's why it does, but it doesn't give it permission to get a pass. But I think that's why, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about data and selling. I think a huge part of Model Rocket's value, from what I'm hearing today, as well as just like pre show research, is that it helps operators sell smarter. Why is sales automation, especially around like pricing and communication, such a pain point for home service and cleaning companies to begin with, you think?
Yeah. I think it's the turnover of the role. I think it's the importance of the role. And what I've found really interesting getting back into this industry is a question which is, why does it take 40 years to turn a good seller into a great seller? Right? Like, and why is it so hard for a mediocre seller to never be great? Right? And what is it about this role that is so hard to get to the capabilities that make a meaningful difference to a business?
Hmm.
And the reality is that it might just be simply setting an appointment, but there's a lot that goes into setting the right appointment. And if you're an owner operator, you know all your crews, you know all your neighborhoods, you know all your zip codes, you know all your product lines, you know all about somebody in the first conversation if you think they're going to pay or not. Like there's a lot of context that comes just from that first 2 minutes of every single customer call. That is really,
Yeah.
really, really hard to get a human without the incentives of an owner to have um, the filter.
It's the wherewithal. Yeah. The
Yeah,
filter, the
our
wherewithal,
word is
knowing what to ask. Yeah.
context, filter, reasoning, passion, whatever it is, and that's why this is so hard, and it's also why it's such a shiny object for a lot of both AI companies and home services because it's got the highest turnover. And I'm tired of
Yeah.
retraining. And every time I have to hire someone new, I end up my profitability per job goes down because they don't know what they're doing, which isn't their fault. But if you can solve for that,
Yeah.
then you can eliminate some of that risk in that first conversation. And the other thing that I would say, going back to how do you start, is we tell this to all of our customers. Our goal is to take this up into the complexity requires a human being, right? Like when you buy a car and you turn it on, you're not like, oh my god, it turned on, right?
Mm,
You're not excited the car works. AI should be able to handle the perfect calls, right? If a customer if you own a cleaning company and you're hiring a cleaning company, you're talking to AI, you're going to know exactly what to say. You know exactly what you're looking for. But if you're new to it, you're not going to. And your AI needs to be able to handle the calls that go smoothly, no problem. And it needs to be able to identify and manage the calls that you shouldn't be answering. Like, another simple thing to say is it's okay to say this shouldn't be an AI call, right?
mm,
An example I love is we work with a roofer and we've got a recording where this customer called and said, I have all of my materials in my driveway. I just need you to put them on my roof. And if you go with a binary 0 and 1, that's a great qualified call, right?
yeah.
But in reality, it's a nightmare for a roofer to try to figure out. What's the brand? Do I even know how to install it? Is there a
Mm.
like, all the control that you lose when
The variables are huge. Yeah.
and so and like those are the roadblocks in a conversation that if your AI doesn't know how to hand it off and put their hands up and say no thank you, then you're going to end up booking a job, sending a team out, and they're going to be like, what is happening right now? Why am I here?
Yeah. No, 100% true. Let's talk about data that maybe business owners are looking over or overlooking right now that could actually help them increase close rates or lifetime value. And I'm guessing this is data that you fill your AI voice
Yeah.
tools with. What are some things that people possibly are overlooking?
Well, let's also add a layer of what's the data you should be protecting as a business, right? Because you're asking
Okay.
the same thing here, meaning you've got 5 cleaning businesses that serve the same area, right? How do you differentiate yourself? Each one of those owners has their idea of how they're different. And that differentiator also trickles down to how they identify and who their ideal customers are, right? And one of the things that we always, that we've built in is this concept of like cascading logic, meaning
Mm,
is is every neighborhood the same? No. Is every zip code the same? No. Is every job type the same? No. And as a business owner, you know that. And whether you have documented that or not, somewhere along the lines you do have that documented, or you have explained it, right? You're the marketing arm, right? You have these conversations, whether you pull it out of your customers or whether they come to you with that information. That's
mm.
the information that you need to be able to pump into and really filter and manage your AI solution, because that's what separates yourself. I don't feel like I answered that really well. You want to dig in a little bit more?
Yeah, yeah. You're right. We need to be protecting data, right, and everything like that. But maybe just customer data points or customer variables that we should be paying attention to more in those sales conversations. Because I hear what you're saying, and training this AI is important, right? And I think we're talking a lot about the variables that can pop up
Yeah.
in specific sales situations for specific companies, and there are probably some of those that are very unique.
Mhm.
And I think we've also talked about sometimes the owner is the only one that knows how to handle those variable situations. So, how does the owner or even like a sales manager who knows those situations well, what data, what variables should we be aware of that maybe are just common sense to us, but maybe we're overlooking when it comes to like training an AI or even like training a sales staff?
Yeah. Yeah. So we do a lot of work in the water restoration, fire restoration business. And what was really eye-opening getting into that industry was when you're in emergency services, every phone call is an emergency to the person calling. And so you grow your business by filtering, is this an emergency that I want to treat like an emergency, right?
Sure.
And so we've had to build in the logic of define your 5 emergency situations. Okay, electrical, fire, flood, active water, mold, whatever it is. Well, now ask yourself, are they all equal? Right? Because this is because remember, AI doesn't
Mm,
think, right? AI doesn't reason. It treats it all the same if you don't tell it any different.
yeah.
And so what we built in is define your 5 emergency situations, right? And by the way, when I say 5 emergency situations, this translates to any industry and any business and anybody who's listening. Define your
Sure.
5 whatever it is, right? And then define a subcategory of those 5. And then ask yourself what combination of that customer profile makes it an emergency or makes it an ideal job that you want to send a crew out to right now, right?
Mm.
And go back to learning loops, right? If you're not learning from that, then it's just going to get more complicated and it's not going to get smarter. And what's interesting about that is what happens when something slips through the cracks. Someone calls your main line and not your after hours line. Is it an emergency or is it not? And do you want to define that as a third tier of the thing that you're trying to identify so that the next time someone calls, you're better prepared? And that might not mean sending the crew out specifically. It might mean send the new technician out, but let them know ahead of time this may
Mm.
be an emergency. And then let the emergency crew know, hey, be prepared. In an hour, you might get a call from Drew saying, there's flooding, come out right now. And just that preparedness creates efficiency and increases your profitability per job.
So the training of this AI, I mean, and I'm on board with it's worth it. But it also sounds like, and probably somebody maybe that's on that like point A that we talked about who's still nervous about it, or maybe even someone that's in that point B, it sounds like it is a wild amount of work to get to the point where this AI is like trained the way it needs to. What are some possible shortcuts or speed tips you have to get that training
Yeah.
going quickly, because I do a lot of I record almost every call I'm on right now, and I mean, I think transcript needs to be like the 2025 word of the year because I have never used the word transcript more in my life than I have since I've been like diving in
Yep.
to AI tools. But I'm recording calls. I'm putting that call transcript into an AI so I can learn from it. So transcripts is obviously probably a fast track, but let's say people don't have 5 years of sales call transcripts that they could use. What are some ways to speed up that training process, or is this not something you really want to speed up? You want to do it the slow and steady way because you get better results from it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that question because I'm going to make a overconfident statement, and then it'll there's an accuracy level to it that's inaccurate.
I'm
But
ready for it. Yeah.
every new business owner has a mentor, right? They've got somebody who's in their ear or who they go to ask for advice. That's kind of similar to training an AI model. But what's
Mm,
unique about this moment in time is if you are a brand new business and you are an owner operator, a one crew, you're operating out of your garage, you have the opportunity to lean on a model that's been trained. And is it more of a communal model, right? If we take away if the product's free, then you're the product, and we add in, there is a moment in time in your business where you do want to crowdsource that knowledge. And that really is where AI becomes such an accelerant to a new business, because you can
mm,
crowdsource what is the right thing to say as an intro? What is the right qualifying question? How do I qualify somebody after hours for an emergency when I need every dollar, right? But you'd go ask your mentor, hey, what do you do after hours to make sure that it's not a waste of money? Don't pick up the phone, right? Like you always get those kind of. But with AI, you can crowdsource, and all of a sudden your AI answering service has the experience of 15 or 20 years in the industry. But there is an inflection point where you do start to separate yourself, and you do want your data separated, because now you've figured out your zip
yeah.
codes, your market, your products, your customers, your whatever it is. There is a moment where you do not want to keep on putting it into the communal model, because again, you think about it, you benefited from everybody else's knowledge, but at some point you do want to protect yourselves from benefiting everybody else to know your market.
I love it. Very cool. Uh, Real quick, let's do someone's interested, right? So maybe they're having that person that's in that first camp. We're talking them into it, right? They're warming up to the idea of it. What are some things in like the next week that they can do to start moving this way to be more open to using like a voice AI, or how to start training that voice AI, or like what are some great first steps for them um, to get into this? But also, like I said, not something like it's gonna be overwhelming where they're just gonna like throw up their hands,
Yeah.
right? Like, what are some good first steps for people?
Yeah. Yeah. When a conversation is not going the way I want it to, I then start to lean into, all right, Drew, what are some of the KPIs about your business that just drive you crazy? Right? Like
Mm,
every business has some metric where the owner goes, what is happening here? Why do I pay people? Like, why are we missing 20% of our calls? Why is the hold time 5 minutes? There is a KPI there that just bothers you. So identify those, right? The old
yeah,
term is pain point or whatever it is, but just identify that. Like, what is it about that one role that you just don't understand why the KPI is so low? And then the other thing that I would suggest is pick a role that has high turnover. And so the next time somebody opts out of that role, you don't have to backfill it,
mm,
right? Because you've got these roles that turn over, and you've got this self-selection of, I'm not giving you 2 weeks. Well, isn't that an interesting time to try to backfill that role with a service that will never do that to you again?
I love it. Very cool.
Does that work?
Yeah. I think that's great. I think we've given a lot of first steps that are great. And I think it is identify um what is an issue, find that KPI, and then early we even talked about it more, measure. Don't just like identify a KPI, like get some real data behind it and like say this is now we're frustrated. We're frustrated here. Next step is like why are we frustrated? Like the exact KPIs of like where are we measuring and everything like that. So let's just build out an example. Frustrated with, we've talked about it a lot, like weekend call conversions. That's a frustration KPI for a cleaning company. Next step, great. What is your conversion rate for weekend calls? Literally, let's say it's 0%, right? Because no one's there to answer. And like those Monday morning makeup calls are not working. So we're at 0%. They've identified the issue, they've identified the benchmark. What's next
Test,
to help start fixing that? Test
test,
it.
right? Like, we can stand up an agent to answer your phones in 5 minutes. You know,
Wow.
tell us your zip codes, right? Tell us your
Yep.
products and services. We'll do a scrape of your website, pulling all your information about you. And as long as you're willing to accept our default, which is proven, again, that kind of community proven, then
Yep.
we're not. And again, it's also under think here's another answer. Think about the nuances of your appointment setting, right? Most businesses are willing to travel way outside their comfort radius for a commercial job.
Mm,
So if your AI doesn't understand the difference between commercial and residential, then you run the risk of missing a commercial job, right? And think about it in these terms, especially in the beginning. Do you want the default to be turning away revenue, or do you want the default to be accepting revenue at the risk of not wanting the job? Because most of our customers in the beginning want the appointment at the risk of sending somebody out to a job that they don't want,
yeah.
versus saying no to a job and wishing they had sent somebody out. And the reason why I started with commercial residential is because commercial is a bigger job. So you want to send somebody out to explore a commercial job, and you know where you might be strict with a residential, you're going to be lenient with a commercial booking.
I love it. Great variables to take in place. Let's talk about like the leadership lens of your role and like the career that you've had so far. I think you've led some pretty high performing sales teams in the past and like complex industries, being coming from like that enterprise SaaS world that you did. What advice do you have for home service and cleaning business owners who are trying to roll out new technology? Maybe it's literally just this example we've been talking about on this, where it's like that weekend AI voice, sales rep, but they're getting pushback from their teams, or
Yeah,
their teams are feeling overwhelmed.
yeah,
I know in a lot of the situations in this
yeah,
season, we've talked about your staff, when you start bringing in AI tools, they're like, wait, if I start using this, am I going to have a job? Right. Or maybe they're older staff and they're just overwhelmed by the technology in general. How do you encourage your teams, your staff, to also lean into this?
yeah, yeah. That is that's a individual, unique answer to everybody who's thinking about it. What I would say is your AI adoption is going to be slower if you rely on the people who are going to be impacted the most. And
Mm.
we don't put this in any of our marketing material, but we do believe humans are the most expensive way to do business. And
Also, the
humans are
most
also,
complicated.
what was that?
Yeah. Also, the most complicated. Yeah.
And capable, and
Yeah.
capable. And so I wrestle with this concept a lot. And where I've arrived is, if humans are the most expensive way to do business, but they're also the most capable, then let's point them at the most useful part of the journey. And answering the phones is not the most useful part of the journey unless the
Mm.
complexity requires a human. And so if you've got 10 people answering the phones, four of them are probably really, really, really good. What else could they be doing? Right? If they're
Mhm.
really good at answering the phones, well, why are they in the field helping make sure the job goes well? Right? There's better things to do for your most talented people than answering the phones, than transcribing calls, than putting data into your CRM, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that what we're going to end up doing is, one, bringing the cost down or the profitability increase for each one of these businesses, and in turn be able to reallocate really good talented resources to really impactful, differentiating, different making roles, like more of a personal touch at the house, more of a personal touch
Yeah.
post job. So that's my belief. Don't start with people who are gonna be impacted, because they're the ones who are always gonna be critical of the pauses and the inflections. And you know what? They're right. But you know what else what they're wrong is, we're better, right? Even though the voice isn't that great at the moment, or even though the voice struggles sometimes, our conversion rates are better, customers are happier. And the other weird inflection point that we're going to start to experience here soon is, we've got one of the largest human to AI training data sets, right? But most of these agents are trained on human to human conversations. And so, what's going to happen when more people like me want to talk to AI? Because that AI agent is trained on all your information, all your products, all your services, all your experience, all your FAQs, all your SOPs. I want to talk to an AI agent because I know how to work it now. And I can get a 5-minute conversation done in 30 seconds because I lead in
Yeah.
with, "Hey, I'm so and so, this is what I want. This is, I'm pre-qualified. I've already talked to my insurance agent. Here's my letter of," like, I throw it all out there, so the AI knows exactly who I am in 30 seconds and can find the right person at the business that I can talk to, or book an appointment. I don't have to talk to anybody.
It's a really good point, and that's just going to be more and more real, I think. I mean, I don't know, a comparison is like we've gotten really good at Googling things to find the exact results we want. Back in the day, we probably were like typing two sentences into a Google search bar when we were trying to figure out how Google works and how what sites pop up when we type to certain things. We're really good at giving Google the information we know it needs to give us that search result we're wanting to look for. Now it's already probably translating to those LLM models as well. We know what prompts will give us a better result or better feedback from AI tools as well. So you're 100% right. I could see us, the customer end, being more and more used to as time goes on that AI voice on the other end, and they know what to say to get a quick result. It's kind of like when you get an automated voice, not an AI, like an automated voicemail or something like that. You know, I'm pushing zero. You know, I'm at least trying because I'm trying to get that operator as quickly as
Operator.
possible, right? And so we've learned that as time goes on too.
Calling you out,
Very cool.
CVS. Calling you out,
Oh my,
CVS. Fix
calling
that.
you out like everybody. Uh, yeah.
Well, we have a
So
do. But what about so our web agent? So we start off by building a central knowledge agent, which is everything about your business. And then we connect to your scheduling, your CRM, your technician
yeah,
database, your job database, your his like all of it, right? So what happens when you put our web agent on your website and somebody goes to GPT or Alexa or Gemini and says, "Help me find a cleaning service," right? And
yep,
then they start saying, I want a veteran owned, female owned, available this Saturday, right? Like right now, it's help me find a cleaning service. But I promise you, in a very
yeah.
short amount of time before we're ready for it, it's going to be veteran owned, in business for 5 years, 400 Google reviews, and carries $2 million of insurance, right? Like customers are going to get more and more specific. And if your agent, if your AI doesn't, one, have access to that information, and two,
Yeah.
isn't properly ready to answer, just like search engine was hard to figure out, generative engine optimization, GEO, SE, whatever they're calling it to get people, it's going to be
Yeah, we
tricky.
can't decide on an acronym yet. It's either AEO or GEO.
It's going to be
That's
tricky.
on us. That's on our marketers. We need to pick an
But
acronym and
but
move
Joe, but the
forward with it.
point is, that is now your representation to someone looking for
Yeah.
you using, and you better be ready. And what I
Yep.
find interesting is the impact of having training videos on your placement when people, because the change in search for home services isn't I'm looking for a specific thing, it's start with a problem.
Yep.
I did one recently. Why is my washing machine rattling? Right? So now a search for somebody to come in and look at my washing machine, it started with, can I fix this myself?
Yeah.
And what's interesting is I found somebody who had a video on the problem I thought I was experiencing and then decided I didn't want to fix it. And that was my journey to booking someone to come out and look at my washing machine. And that's going to happen for everybody.
I was on a podcast earlier this week and he said the exact same thing. He's starting to use ChatGPT the way that he used to use YouTube and that was to like find those DIY solutions. I'll take it even further. You were talking about people are searching for like the veteran owned have insurance. I think too, these LLM models, the more people use them, they're going to learn. I know you love veteran owned businesses. I know because you like that one recommendation I gave you, and I know this company's similar to that company or has things in common with that company. So it's just that it's going to get creepy, but in a great way. Learn us even more and more and more, or we don't even need to type those things in. It's just going to know what type of company we like to do business with, and it's going to give those suggestions off of that too.
But go back to my first statement of why we founded Model Rocket. I don't want you making a decision for me, and I need to know why you did what you did. And the way that
Yeah.
we've built this is somebody like somebody in your position will be able to build your profile. And so if it suggests something outside your profile, you're going to be like, what are you doing? You know, veteran owned is 50% of my criteria for who I'm looking for to come to my house. You know, I don't want anybody sub 2 years in business. You
Yep.
know, I don't want somebody who's had three turnovers, and meaning like, they were ABC and then they were ABCD and then they were
Yeah.
ABC2. Like you already, so when you suggest a product, when you suggest a service, I need to be able to see this is why you suggested it. And that logic is built into every step that we take throughout your sales process as a business. Why did you book this appointment? Well, it was a highly prioritized zip code. It was in the neighborhood that you wanted, and they said it was a roof replacement rather than a roof repair. That's a
Mm.
pretty good place to start with
Yeah.
a forensic discovery of why that appointment was booked. And if your AI can't do that, then how is it arriving at that?
Love it. Very cool. I want to know about, in your view, and we're talking obviously a lot about AI, but just technology as a whole. In your view, what is currently separating companies that have successfully adopted technology and AI tools from those that buy tools but never really integrate them into how they operate. Because I think that's happening the same way that happened in software as a whole, right? It's so easy to buy a software. It's got a 30-day trial. We forget our cards on there, and all of a sudden we're a customer of a software we never use. But what's the biggest differences in the companies you're seeing that purchase, and technically the companies that invest and then mix it into their operations, compared to those people that see something shiny and purchase and then never like get it integrated?
I mean, what are the buzzwords? Reaction versus action. It's it's a company that has no idea how to quantify change management, right?
Mm,
And it's a company that doesn't start with metrics. Go back to all this conversation. Why are you doing this? Like, what is the reason
yeah,
why? What's the pain point you're trying to identify? Um, yeah, I think that's it. It's the companies who struggle with change management and don't understand the change management aspect of it, and then just dump it down the chain, down the
yeah,
employee group to say, "Hey, figure this out." And they're like, "Well, 50% of our customers are Spanish speaking, and the agent you gave me doesn't speak Spanish. What do you want me to do?"
yeah. I think too what we've talked about, those first few steps is a big differentiator with those people too. The ones that take the time to figure out what they're not happy with, the ones that take the time to actually set a benchmark of where they're at with their thing they're not happy with, they are more likely to implement, right? Rather than somebody who just sees something shiny, doesn't really know why they need it other than somebody in their industry told them they need it. It's intentionality from the jump, I think,
Yeah,
can make a big difference for people too.
and
Let's
just
talk
like
about, oh sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
just like a new employee isn't going to solve your historical problems, AI isn't going to solve anything for you. It's just not. Unless you are a beginning business and you want to try to be all AI native, that's going to solve a bunch for you, but you're also going to lose a bunch of control until you figure out how to do that. So
Yeah.
AI is not the magic bullet right now. In fact, it really shouldn't ever be the magic bullet, because if AI is the magic bullet, then your business isn't unique and you're not needed as an operator.
So true. Yeah. It's a tool, right? It's not a bullet, it's a tool.
Yep.
What role do you think technology companies like Model Rocket play in coaching and supporting implementation? I think in the software world, we've seen it, and for sure, we're starting to see it in the AI world, where people are just selling a license or selling access, and then the company just walks away. And then you definitely get those operators that are not implementing. Where do you think that line is for tech companies like yourselves to play into, like, hey, you've got it, let me coach and support you while you're implementing this so it can actually make a big difference?
Oof. We benefit from model comparison, right? So we benefit from being able to say, this is the crowdsourced model, and these are the benchmarks and metrics it performs at.
Mm,
And so we're able to very quickly say, you turn on it. This is what we experience. Say you turn on after hours agent and you want to add some funky, this is my brand. I need to have my tagline. And we go, okay, no problem. And then it just dive bombs. And we can then turn around and say, look, I don't know what to tell you. This is the performance of the crowdsourced model, just our baseline model. Yours is down here. And if you can,
mm,
if you want to look at it, your intro is 2 minutes long and doesn't even ask a question. Versus, we've learned, if you're gonna do an intro and you don't ask a question, can I have your name? Can I have your zip code? What are you looking for?
mm,
Then it creates an inconsistent pause, because the person on the other line doesn't know what action to take. Hey Drew, how are you doing? Fine. Okay, well, versus, hey Drew, how are you doing? What's your zip code?
yeah.
Right. And just being able to offer that guidance, just like you do when you sign somebody up, right? Like you know the things to do and what not to do, right? And so you can experiment. And also, it's a weird fine line where we want to encourage people to work off of a working model, because we want to know, how does someone view how the intro or the outro or the appointment or the follow-up, because that's how we learn and how we get better. Remember that if your data is free, then you're then you're the product, right? We
Yeah.
learn from that. But you got to start with this understanding of, this is the baseline, and if you are underperforming on that baseline, there's a reason why. If they can't tell you why, dig into that.
Makes a lot of sense. Hey, man, thank you for this conversation today. I really appreciate it. We've been ending these episodes kind of with like a elevator speech, letting the tech companies that are on this season give them like 60 seconds. Let's say you're in an elevator with a home service business owner or a cleaning business owner who's skeptical about AI, automation, and just all this technology stuff. What is your 60-second pitch to help them see the opportunity and what risk there is for just standing still?
We look back at and forget some of the origination of AI, right? One of my favorite original use cases was in the canning industry, people used to weigh cans for quality control. Nobody is holding on to that job anymore thinking, man, I wish I could go weigh cans. Now it's just between the range and it moves on. We need to understand that what we're holding on to is also causing waste within these businesses. And the waste doesn't necessarily mean that prices go up, or that it means that somebody's doing something that isn't rewarding, or a customer isn't getting served the way that is your standards. And so we're not trying to replace, we're trying to optimize, obviously, but what are we holding on to that in 20 years we're going to be like, why did we do that? And that's just the natural evolution of who we are. We'll figure out the rest of it, right? Nobody's going to be wondering, why aren't we answering the phones anymore, when there's other things to be focusing on, and what else can we
Yeah.
be doing with our time?
That was someone's job to weigh cans.
Yeah, it
That's
was.
fascinating. Yeah, love that. Hey, thank you for being a part of this conversation. And honestly, like a very incredible deep dive, but also I think we kept it maybe right below the surface level for everybody that could be listening to this. So I really appreciate you bringing a lot of clarity and energy to the table for this conversation. Before we wrap, can we tell people where they can go to connect with you or learn more about what Model Rocket is doing for companies in the home service industry?
Yeah, so modelrocket.ai is our website. You can obviously get a hold of me there. My email is chris@modelrocket.ai. You are welcome to email me there. And you know what? We're all in sales. Find a way to get a hold of me, right? I'd love to talk to you. And like I tell everybody who doesn't decide they want to go with Model Rocket, you can always call me, and I can always give you advice and or my perspective on advice for anybody else you're engaging with in the space. You should come armed to your conversations, just like you come armed to an interview with what you're trying to get out of it. And this should be a safe. I don't want to say safe space. Um, this should be a positive experience where you're looking forward to optimizing something that you're trying to stop doing that's hurting your business.
For sure. Yeah. Hey, if you've got value from today's episode, pass it along to another cleaning business owner or maybe another person that owns a business in the home service space who's trying to make sense of where technology fits into their strategy and then how do they implement it. Because we know technology is not just a tool, it's a multiplier. When done right, it helps you scale smarter, serve better, and lead with confidence. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.